Welcome to our session on invoices with taxes. We'll be troubleshooting invoices with tax today. So just a little bit of information about invoices and tax. So there's a few different ways that tax can be applied on the invoices in Collaborati. Now, U.S. tax is one way to enter the tax, and those are entered at the line item level with the and on the line item you'll choose the taxable item checkbox, and the non-U.S. tax can be applied at the invoice level or at the line item level, and this would depend upon whether or not the client has line item level tax enabled. So you can check that by logging into Collaborati. So now I'm logged in as a Mitratech admin, and if I check my client list, you can see this client's on the settings. They have this international line item tax details off. So if it's on, that means that this client allows for line item tax. If it's off, as is the case with this client, that means that line item tax is not available, that you can only use invoice level tax. All right, so invoice level tax is applied with a flat amount. Line item level tax is applied at the line item by choosing one or more tax codes and then indicating the percentage of tax on the line. Now, this is how it works now. In the near future, we're anticipating that some enhancements will be happening in Collaborati, and this might actually change how the line item level tax is applied. All right, so the invoices with taxes, there can be issues in several different ways. And so we'll just talk about some troubleshooting tips here. Okay, so let's start off with LEDES 98 BIV2. Now, this is an international version of LEDES. If the international line item tax details setting is off, then the invoice that is 98 BIV2 will read the tax as invoice level tax. If the setting for international line item tax details is on, then when uploading this file type, 98BIV2, then the tax is only going to be recognized as line item tax. So line item tax does not seem to allow for invoice. Yes, so if the international line item tax details is on, that means that you can't use invoice level tax with that format. So there are some allowances that Collaborati makes for tax adjustments, and will be you would actually make some changes on the field here in the line item tax total in order to put an adjustment on your tax. So if you have an IF line, that means that you can actually adjust the tax. And here's actually an example right here. So this one has line item tax. A line item tax adjustment. All right, so tax adjustments are allowed in certain cases. Okay. So there's just a little bit of information. We also have a couple of MindTouch articles that I would like to draw your attention to. The first one is, how do I create an invoice with VAT tax, line item level tax, non-US tax? So this is a step-by-step guide to create an invoice with line item level tax. So basically, the first part of it is showing you how to check if they have taxes available, non-US taxes available, and if the client's settings allow for line item tax. So this is on here. Then when you create your invoice, you'll indicate so by checking the tax type non-US and tax level and line item level. Once you enter the line item level tax, you would enter your fee line, matter, item type, timekeeper, date, fee, rate, hours with a comment in the description, and then here on the bottom you would choose the non-US tax here in the little drop down. Once you've added the tax, it just appears like, or once you've added the line item with the tax, it just appears like this. If you click on the little plus, it would show you more information. You can see that at the bottom. There's also a place for you to put the tax rate on the taxes and discount page. So here the VAT expense is 10% and the VAT fee, VAT fee is 10% also. And then finally here on the preview page, you'll see the details, and it says fee code with a taxable VAT or expense code with a taxable VAT. All right, so now we'll look at a few cases. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one other article that you should review, and that is this one, How Do I Create an Invoice with VAT Taxes? But this one is the invoice level non-US tax. So this shows you how to create an invoice level tax. International line item tax details can be on or off. When you create your invoice, you'll use the tax type non-US, and you have the option to choose summary level or line item level. Note, this doesn't tell you what your client wants to see, so it's an option that the vendors have. So they could choose incorrectly. If the setting is off, they won't have that option. And then when you enter you don't enter anything on the line item in this particular case. So here you'll see, here's here's the fee line right here, matter, item type, timekeeper, date, fee, rate, hours, and description. And then further on down in the taxes and discount area, you'll see that you can enter your flat amount for your VAT, for your non-US tax. So you'll choose the correct code from the description box after you've chosen the correct type, and then you can add the amount. Note that the tax is applied either as a fee tax or an expense tax. And here's the example, and then your invoice should appear like this. The non-US tax summary is showing in the second box here in the summary section. So those are two good articles that can be of assistance. Okay, so let's go on to a few cases. So it's possible to change the tax on a copied invoice. If an invoice with tax is copied, sometimes weird things can happen during the rule validation in Team Connect. So here we have a sample case. Okay, so the customer wrote in, further to the below, I'm unable to submit a non-US bill due to the error shown in the screenshot. Could you please advise how to rectify this? When you copy an invoice, the line items with the tax are also copied. If any of the lines have tax, you would need to remove the tax on each of the lines. Let's look at the error first. Here. All right, so it says, the error says invoice of non-US tax type cannot have taxable line items. So here it looks like they're trying to change the invoice to US. Maybe it was a non-US tax type previously. And let's see how this goes. All right, so when you copy the line items, the line item with the text are also copied. If any of the lines have tax, you would need to remove the tax on each of the lines before you could adjust the header to change the tax type. This may mean that you have to remove the tax from each line, then change the header, and then add the tax to the lines. I would suggest that you create a new invoice if you need to make changes to the tax type. It looks like Susan had a question. Once the invoice is approved in Team Connect, the CSM synchronization will update the status in Collaborati to say approved for the invoice. Collaborati does not record subsequent updates from Team Connect, so if the invoice is later rejected, it will not update in Collaborati. This looks like the subsequent update reply. If you later need to reject the invoice, you would need to communicate directly to the vendor that the invoice was rejected. This is because no email will be sent informing the vendor that the invoice was rejected. The vendor should delete the approved invoice and resubmit. And don't delete the invoice in Team Connect if the status has not been shared with Collaborati. All right. Follow up. And then he said the issue was resolved. All right. Explained about changing the tax on the invoice that has been copied. All right. So that's, yes, sometimes weird things can happen. Okay, so it might be a good idea just to start over with the new invoice if there's seems to be recurring issues with the invoice with tax that was copied. All right, withholding tax. So when an invoice is applied with withholding tax, it looks like a negative tax. This was a surprise to some of us in Collaborati support at one time. So we have an article for this. In order to add your withholding tax, you should check if your client has enabled non-US taxes. And then you can see in the non-US taxes that there's a withholding tax here. Non-US tax codes are split into fees and expenses. We recommend that all tax codes be selected for ease of selection. If your client does not list withholding tax, you may need to consult your client's billing guidelines, and they may have special instructions on submitting invoices with this type of tax. Once you've made sure that the non-US taxes have been activated, you can create your invoice. So here's your header. The tax type is non-US. There's your line items. There's your taxes and discounts. So here, there's a withholding tax. In the description, that's the drop down. And then you have the amount that you just enter. Here the tax is negative. And here's a preview of the invoice. Now this is this is summary level tax. So if there's line item level tax, that may be a little bit different in how you apply it, but it should look similar. All right, so let's take a look at this case. This is an older case. Okay, so they just said, hi, Meter Tech Support. Please work with Lisa on submitting an invoice showing withholding tax. And basically, we just sent her some information about withholding tax using the solution on creating manual invoice with withholding tax. So basically, we just showed her this article or a similar article. All right. Some clients don't use non-US tax codes for their tax. So Pfizer is an example of this client that does not use tax. So the email says, Collaborati support, can you please assist? And it looks like we need someone to contact the vendor. It looks like Nahid had a question. I was discussing with you the first page in the create invoice does not give me the option to select non-US tax as the tax type. I believe once that is sorted out, the option to select E125 VAT tax, indicate country and description field would show up, and then we can state Bangladesh in the description. So she's almost right. So I'll just pull up that. The solution is that she should review the Pfizer documentation on creating invoices. So, tips regarding codes and currencies. So here's how to view your codes. And make a note of the VAT tax code. This is listed as an expense code, not a non-US tax code. And you would enter taxes as an expense line. All right, when you create your invoice, you'll use the tax type US, which is the default. And you will not be able to change it to non-US. And then at the bottom, you can see that the tax type is US. The vendors, so I replied back to Nahid and Manny, the vendors for Pfizer should not use the non-US tax type. Instead, leave the tax type as US. Please review the information attached, which has information about applying taxes. So I gave them some documentation that's similar to our MindTouch article. All right. So there's just a handful of clients that do that, and Pfizer's one of our bigger ones that does that. So just so you know, a few of our clients do not use the non-US tax codes. All right, LEDES 98B and tax. All right, so here, Collaborati support team, please advise. I'm receiving an error message when submitting an invoice through Collaborati. Please assist with determining how to correct these errors. We are completely unfamiliar with non-US tax codes. Is there even a screenshot? No. We can't see the screenshot. Oops. I'm just gonna log out. Okay, let's see. So it says, Carla, Cisco does not use non-US tax. Please do not use LEDES 98 VIV2. Let me know if you have any questions. So right now, as of today, LEDES 98 VIV2 does require you to enter a valid non-US tax code. And you can see that here, it's the line item tax type. This is a required field. And it's required whether or not you're using invoice level tax or line item tax at this time. And you'll get an error message that says so if you don't do that. All right. Let's see what happened here. All right, she said we won't use that. All right, let's go on to the next case. Would you be able to assist with the issue we have for Viacom? Viacom client requires invoices to be uploaded in LEDES 98B format. We have VAT on invoice. We amend tax line from IE to E, and in the description field we add VAT. So when the file is read by the system, it converted the tax line. However, this invoice was rejected due to VAT being entered as an expense line. So, we do have some documentation about this. So it is possible if the client does not have line item tax details, international line item tax details on, then they can actually use 98B to enter the tax. In fact, we have instructions on how to do that. And I think there's a disclaimer on here. Where is it? Enter line items as usual, then enter one or more extra rows in the file to contain tax amounts. Create one tax row in the file for each combination of non-US tax code category. In addition, note the following additional requirements. If a category relates to fees, use F in the EXP, FEE, or invoice adjustment type field. I'll show you what that is. Oops, it's over here. In the 98B, it's over here. That's this column. Oops. And then if a category relates to an expense, you'll put an E, and then put the non-US tax code in the field for line item expense code. Or if it's for fees, put it in the line item tax code for fees. So that would be, if it's an F line, then you would put the non-US tax code here. If it's an E line, you would put it here. And back to this here. In either case, put the total tax amount for that matter into the line item total field. All right, I think there's another article about this that includes the information that this does not work for LEDES 98 BIV2. I'm sorry. This does not work for clients that have the international line item tax details on. So you must check that first. Now Viacom does not have that setting on, so they should be able to do that. So let's see what happens. It would be helpful if you sent the LEDES file and a screenshot of the rejection or file error. It looks like they didn't respond. All right. The Viacom comment said VAT was entered as an expense. This should be entered in the tax field. Please update address on hard copy. So then you can see the last line was showing as this. and it should be coded in the right place. So instead of using E124, they should use VAT, because that's the code that Viacom wants them to use. If you have comments on the IF line, if you want Viacom to read them, you may want to enter them in the invoice description field. Alright, so it gave some suggestions for revising the file. So in that case, it looks like they had the wrong task code. Alright, let's take a look at another BIV2 case. So this is a case regarding LEDES 98 BIV2 and tax calculations. Oops. Please advise how to resolve the error below. Note that the e-bill also previously failed when the line item total did include the tax amount. As per previous instructions from Collaborati, we were advised the adjustment line item total must not include tax, and this format has been working for bills with a negative adjustment. Please advise if anything different is required, as this bill has a positive adjustment. Okay, so it looks like here's their error. Line item total 903 does not match the total calculated by Collaborati. And here's their file. And this looks like the B file. It has an invoice total issue as well as a line item total. And how do we resolve this? I reviewed your file. Your email mentions the following. As per previous instructions from Collaborati, we were advised the adjustment line item total must not include tax, and this format has been working for bills with a negative adjustment. Please note that Deutsche Bank does not allow adjustment lines, such as IF or IE lines, so this information does not apply. The file error you are seeing on the attached file is because the calculation for the last line is wrong. The line item total, rate hours plus adjustment plus tax, is 0 times 1 plus 903 plus 180.75. Your line item total is 903. Perhaps you should change the last line to line item tax rate 0 and then the line item tax total to 0. Then your line item would calculate to 903.75. So let's see. The tax rate would be here. That's the tax rate. And then this would be the line item total, the line item tax total, and then the math would be right. Follow up. Follow up. All right. So it looks like she just had a calculation issue. All right, here's our last case that we'll be looking at, the LEDES 2000 and tax. All right, I am trying to upload our invoice 40521, but the system rejects the format because it's invalid. I do not know, but I do not the reason. I was told that I have to include the corresponding tax code in the format, but I did so, still having problems. Please help. Let's just open a few of these here. Oh, this is the old errors. Let's close these out. I don't see the error. Is it this one? No. It just says invalid. I reviewed the note from Whitney. That tax code should be used on all your invoices and also the LEDES file. The LEDES 2000 format does not allow you to specify the tax type. So this version, it's noted that it just has this LEDES XML at the top, and at the bottom it doesn't specify 2.0 or 2.1. It doesn't allow you to specify the tax type. There's only a place to enter the tax rate and the tax on charge. It sounds like the client wants to see the tax type as VAT. You must use either LEDES XML 2.0 or LEDES XML 2.1 or LEDES 98 BIV2. And since it's for Goldman Sachs, you need to ask for permission to submit your invoice manually in the last case. Do not use LEDES 2000 if you want to specify the tax type. This is not a part of the LEDES 2000 format. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. We will. Can you send me an example of LEDES 2.0? Unfortunately, we're not able to provide you with a sample file. You can visit ledes.org for sample files. However, Goldman Sachs has provided a LEDES XML 2.1 file in their GS Collaborati Invoice Submission LEDES Specs doc. The document doesn't include the tax summary or the tax ID segments. The other option is to create your invoice manually using Create Invoice, and you would have to ask Goldman Sachs for permission to submit manual invoices. All right, and then we closed out the ticket. All right, so that was the last case that we were going to be reviewing on today's session of troubleshooting invoices with tax. Thanks for your time.